I'm John Heilemann.
And I'm Mark Halperin. And with all due respect to Paris and Nikki, this weekend, the only Hilton that matters is in Washington. On the show tonight, Kasich gets a shot, Boehner calls a shot, and Washington reporters do jello shots and body shots. But first, we will be at the Hilton Hotel tomorrow night here in Washington, along with President Obama and several thousand of our closest friends for the annual White House Correspondents Association dinner. But if you're thinking about running for president in 2016, chances are you won't be there. The White House wannabes are going to be busy doing their own thing. There's the Iowa Faith and Freedom Summit in Dallas County, Iowa, where almost 10 or so presidential candidates are speaking. The latest phase of the Sheldon Adelson primary is happening in Las Vegas, and Jeb Bush is holding a donor retreat in Miami. John, the dinner aside, what is the cosmic significance of these three big events?
The religious right still matters in Iowa. Sheldon Adelson has a lot of money, and money really still matters. And Jeb Bush, at this moment, cares more about his donors than he does about the National Press Corps.
For me, the big thing about the Iowa event, it's the first time Rand has done an Iowa cattle call. Yeah. And I think Rand Paul might be the front runner in Iowa. It's going to be interesting to see how he does in a group that big. He's going to show a video, his campaign says, and then give his stump speech. That'll be interesting to me. Las Vegas, George W. Bush is appearing for his brother, not open press. Interested to see if he wows the donors. And then finally, Jeb Bush, I agree with you. The donors are really important to him. This group, there's buzz in the political world that some of the people in Jeb's donor community thinks the campaign's a little arrogant, maybe a little disorganized.
A lot of
buzz. Maybe
a lot
not
of buzz like that.
Maybe not being as forthcoming with the donors. There was a call the other day for some of the big donors where very little information was provided. We talked about the other night. So I think it's a big opportunity for them to get the donors engaged like the Obama donors and the Romney donors were.
You're hearing a lot about that kind of thing in the Jeb world, that there's arrogance and that there's too much aggressiveness, and they're flying people down to Florida to try to pry money out of their pockets. And then these stories about the fact that his fundraising might be slowing. It's the massive show of financial force is the core key element of what Jeb Bush is doing to try to stake his claim, and he got to keep that on track.
Mrs. Bush is appearing at one of the events, at least one of the events. That's a big deal. Some of the donors there who will be there, many of them, I believe, don't know her particularly well. Yeah. And that's a big deal because, again, Jeb Bush, I think, is going to need his wife by his side to get this done. The other interesting thing about the Las Vegas event, of course, beyond Adelson, is this notion of the question of winning the pro-Israel primary. That's not just about Adelson, and I think you'll see a fair amount of auditioning.
Although that's a leading indicator, right?
He is a leading indicator.
Yeah, okay. All right. What the Republican presidential field needs, some believe, is a man who says what's on his mind. A man like Ohio Governor John Kasich, who spoke down the block from here today at something called the New America Conference, just part of his plan to get in front of people who don't live in Ohio. Sorry about that. Today John Kasich was, typically uber unplugged.
You think about Ohio, you think cows, agriculture, steel, okay? We got all that. The only risk to the bonds is if people stop drinking. And what I figured out is, in good times they drink, and in bad times they drink more.
And I thought you were a deadhead, no?
Well, I'm a lot of different things. Yeah. Or you can't pin me down on that one either. I mean, it's killing me that I'm not going to see Lincoln Park next couple weeks. And there's Halperin out there. He's put me through the music gauntlet, and I think I did okay.
Okay, but that's not all. There is more. Listen to Governor Unfiltered, take aim at a fairly easy target, the Gordon Geckos of Gotham City.
Oh, I think Wall Street is overwhelmingly too greedy.
Okay, Mark, I have a question for you about this. A kind of extraordinary performance, but a very Kasich-like performance, both in terms of the attack on Wall Street and in terms of the kind of unhinged quality of the rest of this. Can a guy who combines those various elements, can he actually be the Republican nominee?
I mean, some of his positions when he talks like that are going to rub a few people in the party the wrong way. This notion that he says whatever he wants, look, it's an appealing thing about him. It worked very well for John McCain in 2000. some people say, well, now in the digital age, Twitter and everything else, he can't do things like that. I think we may have come into sort of rotated to a different place. And I think Kasich's going to, if he runs, he's going to say things. They'll be controversial. He'll be attacked. I think he might handle it in a way that makes him more popular, not less.
I have 3 reasons to say why I think this actually works to his advantage. Authenticity, authenticity, and authenticity.
Yep.
He is the guy who is the most genuine. He is himself.
Yep.
And that, I think, in any age, actually really works. And I think it will work for him if he decides to run.
He said a ton of things today that no one else running would ever say. All right. Good and bad. Our colleague Jennifer Epstein reported today that Bill Clinton has now ended his role as the honorary chancellor of a for-profit higher ed institution after being in that position for 5 years. That's funny because it comes after Hillary Clinton, on her very first presidential campaign event in Iowa, criticized the for-profit higher ed industry for ripping off students and taxpayers. Republicans cried hypocrisy. Bill Clinton now says his resignation has nothing to do with his wife's campaign. John, does this resignation suggest to you that the Clintons understand they need to clean up their act and are moving to do so?
Well, it is a first step of kinds, at least to try to get some of the optical problems out of the way. I don't know how far they're going to go. You know the Clintons, right? They like to do a small thing to avoid doing the big things. And so I think this is throwing a little bit of a bone to their critics rather than the beginning of a wholesale cleaning of house. I don't see that coming down the road. But this is something that the glaringness of the hypocrisy here and the contradiction is something they had to deal with.
John Podesta is playing a very big role publicly and privately in trying to deal with all these things. It would be interesting to know if John Podesta is getting information from the Clintons, pulling teeth and telling the truth slowly, or whether he knows everything. Because if you look at the history of Clinton controversies, often what causes the problem is the staff doesn't know every fact. And when they learn the facts, the Clintons want to move slowly. This suggests they're doing some things. This one, there was a lot of buzz about it. Jeb Bush has some issues as well with the industry. But in this case, it was a pretty proactive move on a Friday.
And I'll say, Podesta, very close to them, but not like Bruce Lindsay. He's not close the way some of those really old Clinton people are, who really know all the details.
That's a good thing for the Clintons.
Well, yes, I agree with that. I agree with that. Okay. We are taking a break from covering the next president so that we can hang out with the current president at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And because we like to do things a little differently around here, we're bringing NBA legend and Bloomberg Politics poet laureate Walt Frazier with us. He's going to join us for our red carpet coverage. And just in case you're unfamiliar with who this great man is, I decided to take some time today and compile a brief bio of the man called Clyde.
2-on-1, Frazier. It's over the way by Frazier. Frazier, number 10.
The Ryman.
Rising on Peculiar. And the left hand, ain't that peculiar?
The Subliman.
Frazier, that's the only man there. Can't stop it.
The ready for prime timing, Walt Frazier. An all-around athlete since he was a boy, quarterbacking his high school football team and playing catcher in baseball in racially segregated Atlanta. In 1967, Frazier, already a top college basketball player, led Southern Illinois University to win the NIT at Madison Square Garden, the revered New York City sports arena that he would come to call home. Drafted by the Knicks, he earned the nickname Clyde for wearing a hat just like Warren Beatty's. In his incredible career, Frazier dropped more than 14,000 points for the Knicks, dished 4,791 assists, and played 759 games while winning 2 NBA championships. One of the all-time great Hall of Famers, Clyde Frazier is a leader of the team, a fashionable dream, and an unrivaled master of the dope rhyme scheme. And no matter what his disguise is, he's still always full of surprises.
True or false, you have a cell phone, but you don't know how to text.
True.
Mark, why Walt?
2 reasons. Bernard King was not available, and Walt Frazier is awesome.
Awesome. That was going to be my answer. All right, coming up, one of our own special guests at the dinner tomorrow is Reince Priebus. He'll be here, and we're going to ask him which parties he didn't get invited to. And then after that, part 2 of our interview with House Speaker John Boehner after this. The name of our guest tonight is an anagram for ice pie burners. RNC Chairman Reince Priebus, welcome back to the show. Mr. Chairman, we're sitting here on the brink of an important evening, the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Who are you looking forward to meeting, and why do you like this event as much as you do, assuming that you do?
Well, I actually do like the event. It's a lot of fun, and usually my wife comes with me, so that's fun. We get a babysitter. I like talking to all the folks in the media not being on the record and get to know people, so that's great. And I usually, and I don't know who is going to be there this year, but from the Green Bay Packers, but every year it seems like I meet a Green Bay Packer at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Donald Driver, Charles Woodson, and I'm waiting to see who's going to be there this year. Maybe Aaron Rodgers will show up.
Well, that would be an exciting moment if we could see Aaron Rodgers for sure.
Mr. Chairman, one person who will not be there is Hillary Clinton, and she's obviously having a rough week in a lot of ways. Yesterday on the program, John Boehner told us that he thinks Hillary Clinton broke the law in conjunction with the email controversy. I asked him what law, and he didn't name one. Do you think she broke the law? And if she did break the law, what law?
Well, I mean, she's taking actions that are similar to people that take those kinds of actions that end up breaking the law. And so I think that when you have requests for documents that are clearly out there and someone deletes over 30,000 emails, those are the types of things that have the potential to be criminal without question. And so I think that it's yet to be seen, but clearly...
Yep. There's not currently a statute, though, that you cite to say...
Well, I mean, the Freedom of Information Act is pretty clear, but it's yet to be seen. I mean, I'm not judge and jury to decide whether someone's a criminal or not, but I think that she has taken actions that have the potential to be criminal, both from the email standpoint and potentially now with these donors that haven't been disclosed and all kinds of fees that are going around that we need answers to. I mean, I think one thing is clear, and I think there is a common ground here among both conservatives, liberals, and everyone in between. At the very least, she needs to give up the server and and provide a full audit and accounting of where these donations came from, the emails, and all the actions and payments received. Common Cause is now saying this. I've been saying it for a couple weeks. The Washington Post, the New York Times, as you know, all the other outlets. I think we have common ground on this. And she needs to start talking. I mean, Josh Earnest has actually spoken more about Hillary Clinton's emails and the memo of understanding and the Clinton Foundation issue than Hillary Clinton has.
Your friend John Kasich, we played it earlier in the program, down the street here earlier today, gave a pretty wide-ranging talk. And he said one thing I want to get your response to, whether you agree with it or not. He said, quote, "I think Wall Street is overwhelmingly too greedy." Do you agree with John Kasich, the governor of Ohio?
I don't know, Mark. I didn't hear the comments. I mean, I have no idea.
That's why I read it to you.
Listen, I wouldn't I would not blanketly make a comment like that, because I'm sure there are people in every business that are greedy, and I'm sure there are people in every business that are generous and kind in spirit. So I would never make sort of this a blanket, judgment on an entire community and business. And I wasn't a part of these comments, so I'm just listening to you and reacting. So I don't know what the context was or what was said, and I'm sorry, but I'm doing my best to respond.
Mr. Chairman, we were talking a little bit earlier about the White House Correspondents' Dinner being here tomorrow. There's a lot of Republican presidential candidates who will not be here because they're at other events, either down in Florida with Jeb Bush. Well, Jeb Bush is in Florida with Jeb Bush doing a donor event. People seeing Sheldon Adelson out in Las Vegas, the Faith and Freedom conference out that Ralph Reed's doing out in Iowa. There's a lot of them are out in other places. Can you talk a little about what the importance of those events and which of those strike you as being particularly consequential?
Well, I think they're all consequential, and most of the presidential candidates were out at the Republican Jewish Coalition meeting last year, and they'll have a few more this year. I was actually there last night at RJC in Las Vegas. Took the red eye back today, so I'm still up and at 'em for you guys today. And obviously Jeb and his team have to get, obviously, their donors together and have a confab down there. It's pretty common that campaigns would do that. I think, obviously, the Iowa event's very important, and being the first in the country caucuses and having all those potential delegates in the room are important to all the candidates. So, you know what, we're obviously in almost full campaign mode now. Luckily, we've shaved the actual calendar from 6 months down to about 60 to 90 days, which I think is good. We've cut the debates, and I'm hopeful for a quicker process once the green flag goes down.
Reince, Mr. Chairman, any chance that you think your Bucks are going to come back from down 0-3 against the Bulls?
Boy, you know, I hope so. I was the double overtime last night hurt pretty bad, so it's tough to come back from 0-3. That's for sure.
You're expressing the appropriate level of pessimism, I think, there. Thank you. Reince Priebus, Chairman of the Republican National Committee. Thank you. After the break, does John Boehner think baseball or football is America's pastime? The answer will not surprise you. We'll be right back.
Yesterday, I sat down with the Speaker of the House, John Boehner of Ohio. Tonight, we show you the sequel. It starts with the idea that Congress is actually finally getting some stuff done. Bipartisanship and has broken out. There's less gridlock. You did children's health. You did progress on Medicare. New Attorney General passed today with bipartisan votes. You're about 100 days in. What are the factors, the dynamics that are causing there to be some, not just breaking a gridlock with Republicans, but bipartisan progress with talks on a lot of other topics as well?
Well, I think the fact that we have a change in leadership in the Senate has certainly made a difference. And while I had a good relationship with the former majority leader, the fact is not much came to the floor, and their members weren't engaged on the floor with each other, doing votes, doing amendments. And so the fact that the Senate is actually working is helping us, because on the House side we're able to move bills, but now what we're seeing is bills get to move in the Senate. Now, they don't move nearly as quickly, but there's action. And it's fostered an awful lot of bipartisan conversations on cybersecurity, on trade, collecting of foreign intelligence, elementary and secondary education reform. There's a whole host of things where there are bipartisan, bicameral conversations underway. And frankly, the members feel good about it.
For you then, as we think the rest of 2015, what are the biggest challenges you face as Speaker, do you think?
Well, I think that dealing with the budget and the appropriation process is probably the biggest thing that we're dealing with. I expect that we'll get a budget agreement sometime soon that will come to the floor of the House and Senate. And the appropriation process is going to start earlier than it's ever started. But we're going to have some challenges because we've got bigger defense needs than we have a defense budget. And the president's threatening to veto these spending bills because we think we need to put more money in defense, and he'd rather spend more money on non-defense items. So managing our way through that this year will be a big challenge.
I want to move to foreign policy. I want to cover a lot here. You took an overseas trip. You met with a lot of world leaders in the Middle East. What do you think right now President Obama is doing or not doing, if anything, that's making America less safe?
Well, clearly, the message I heard from all of our allies, from Israel to Saudi Arabia to Iraq to Jordan and others, is they're wondering where America is. When's America going to lead? And while we're doing work to fight ISIL, sitting down with the Iranians, our allies are doing things as well. But the problems of ISIL and Iran spreading terrorism throughout the region is growing faster than what we and our allies are able to get our arms around. Because what's missing here is an overarching strategy that we develop with our allies to deal with both of these problems. That overarching strategy does not exist today.
Is it making us? Is it a danger to the United States, the current policy, or simply not doing good enough?
It is a danger to the United States because ISIS, as an example, they're recruiting people from every country in the world. Their social media efforts at recruiting are really pretty incredible. And there's not nearly enough being done to deal with it.
Okay. We asked a poll question recently of Americans about foreign policy. We asked them, given all the conflict between President Obama, Prime Minister Netanyahu, we asked people, are you more sympathetic to Prime Minister Netanyahu or President Obama? How would you answer that question?
Good effort. Good try. Listen, the president wants peace in the Middle East like we all do.
I'll just say in our poll, when we asked that question to citizens, your fellow citizens, an overwhelming number of Republicans in the poll said they were more sympathetic to the positions of Prime Minister Netanyahu.
The president wants peace between Israel and the Palestinians, and so do I. And for that matter, so do the Israelis. But you can't force a peace agreement on people who cannot come to an agreement. And as long as Hamas is in the powerful position they are with regard to the Palestinians, this is a terrorist organization supported by Iran who've made it clear that they think Israel should be wiped from the face of the earth. How do you sit down and develop a peace agreement with people with that attitude? And so I think the administration has overplayed their hand, overpressured the Israelis. And the Prime Minister of Israel, been a longtime friend of mine, he came and gave, I thought, a fabulous address to the Congress about the real threats that America and the rest of the world face.
All right, national pastime. We asked in the same poll, we asked people, which is a national pastime now, baseball or football? What say John Boehner?
Oh, I'd say football.
Football.
I'd say football. But I've been a long-time baseball fan. Grew up with the Cincinnati Reds, still a big Reds fan.
So what makes football the national pastime?
College football. I root for the Bengals. I watch pro football. I watch the Super Bowl. But college football is pretty exciting. And I see my share of it in the fall.
You seem to be enjoying this first 100 days plus here. You're getting stuff done, as you said, and you like to be here to get stuff done. You got a Democratic president now who I think it's fair to say you've been at least a little bit frustrated with at times. What will life be like for you in January of 2017 if you keep the majority, Mitch McConnell's still the majority leader, and you have a Republican president? What will life be like for you, and how will things be different for Congress and the country?
Well, it'll be a pretty exciting time to take what I'll call a limited agenda and to get it enacted. You know, you can't come into a situation like that with 100 ideas and think they're all going to happen overnight. And if I were helping to guide this process, I'd focus it on, no more than 5 things. 5 things that are important for the American people and to get accomplished. And focus in on them and figure out how you're going to get them done and then get them done.
So get rid of the Affordable Care Act?
Get rid of Obamacare. Fix the broken tax system. Get the bureaucracy under control, the regulatory nightmare that's out there.
That's 3. You got 2 more to go, maybe 1 on foreign policy.
I would strengthen our national defense and play a more active role around the world. And if you want my 5th, to get America going again, I'd find a way to educate more of America's kids. We educate half of our kids. More than half get a diploma. They get a diploma they can't read. When you look at the biggest driver of what's higher education, the biggest cost driver is the fact that all the remedial education they have to do. We as a society, have to do a better job of educating more of America's kids.
Did you get everything off your chest you wanted to say?
Sure.
Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Nice to see you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, thanks to Speaker Boehner. We'll be right back with a full-screen promo for our big activities tomorrow.
When I say Clyde, you say Frazier.
Clyde Frazier.
Clyde Frazier. You're messing it up. You screwed that up. Tomorrow night at our red carpet show at the White House Correspondents' Dinner with our global, special, magnificent correspondent, Clyde Frazier.
Don't be blaming when we start our pre-gaming. That's tomorrow night, right here on Bloomberg Politics and Bloomberg TV. For now, we say sayonara.